Hi there. Thank you for checking out my first video on YouTube. My name is Daphne, and I just bought a house in upstate New York that I will be turning into my home as well as my ceramic studio. I think as time progresses, most of my videos will be focused on my studio and the ceramic making process, but for now, I would like to get this channel started with some videos about different projects I'm working on to make this property more homey. The first thing I'm working on, as you can see here, is what will eventually become a hedgerow, separating this side of my property from my neighbors. You can see their house in the background behind their giant piles of wood that they are currently cutting into firewood. I'm starting this project by planting some lilac bushes that I bought from a wonderful heirloom lilac farm in upstate New York. I chose a few varieties that are variations on my favorite lilac color, and I'll talk more about those later. I'm planting these now in September, as fall is the best time to get these into the ground. I am hoping that in about 3 years, this fully planted hedgerow will provide some much needed privacy for each of us. For some context, this is a very shaky and not always pointed at what I want you to see video of the length of my driveway. It is approximately 50 feet long, so I have a lot of work ahead of me. Now you can see me using a tool simply called a bulb planter. And I'm using this for the sole purpose of collecting a soil sample about 6 inches below the surface. And that is something exciting I'll talk about at the end. I doubt the ground here has been tilled or planted at all in at least 50 years. So it's pretty compacted and hard to get the tool sunk into the ground. But eventually I get it, and I set it aside so I can use that sample later, and woo, is that hard work. Do I need a break? You will also see me using the only shovel I have at the moment, which is a sharpshooter, or also called a transplant spade. It is usually used for digging trenches, and it's not great for moving soil out of a hole, but it is the only thing I have, so it's what I'm using. I moved here about 3 weeks ago, and I'm still waiting on most of my belongings to finally land with the moving company, and in that container are most of my tools. I've been very stubborn about not wanting to buy doubles of what I already have, and I luckily have a collection of gardening tools that the previous owner had left here for me, so thankfully I have something to work with. I'm also not doing a whole lot of work, so it's not so annoying to use this, even though it's not great for this purpose. I also clearly had a moment of genius when I was packing up the things that I would be traveling with to have when I landed here, because I added my gardening gloves. And yes, those are pink on purpose for 2 reasons. One, so that I can find them wherever I happen to randomly set them down when I take them off, which is a very common thing for me to do. Just as common for me to walk in circles searching for the thing I need that I just set down somewhere. And 2, because I love pink. And now I am mixing in some topsoil and some humus-rich compost to the dirt I've dug out of the ground to give these guys a little something extra to feed them while they overwinter. And hopefully next spring they will be strong and healthy. I'll continue to amend the soil as I continue to plant this hedgerow, and hopefully I will start to see lots and lots of growth and lots of flowers each year. I haven't totally decided what this hedgerow will consist of in the end, whether I go for a more formal or a more cottagey feel. I do know that I want lilacs running down the entire length of the driveway, and I know I want things planted in between them. So right now I'm planting each one about 3 times the recommended distance to each other, so that I have plenty of room to add things in between. I'm thinking possibly hydrangeas, possibly some boxwoods for some fancy topiary work, and also Rose of Sharon because I love hibiscus tea. And of course there will also be ground cover for foliage and flowers along the way. I do have some general plans for planting more edible plants and flowers, and we'll be looking into more native plantings so that I'm not bringing so many more invasive species into this area. I understand that lilacs are not technically indigenous to this country. They've also been planted here for hundreds of years, so maybe there's some gray area there. They are one of my favorite flowers and one of my all-time favorite scents, so it's very important to me that I create a strong presence of them. I am also brand new to all of this, and if you have any suggestions or tips or comments, please feel free to add them, and I would love to read any insight and advice I can get. And one of the numerous times that I realize I've forgotten a tool I need and have to walk back to get it. The last thing I need to do is make cages to put around these little guys as protection from both the lawnmower and the mini deer that love to eat everything out of my yard. I know I could buy something pre-made. I know that they're not very expensive, but I had this roll of fence material that was left here by the previous owners, and I don't really have any plans for it, so I thought, why not use what I already have available? This also allows me to make them to the exact dimensions I want. You can see here that I am using a pair of lineman's pliers to cut both length and width. These pliers are probably not the best for the job, but they are the one pair of tools I have that both cuts and bends, so it's what I have. I really can't wait for the rest of my belongings to arrive, and then you can see me actually using the correct tools for the jobs I'm doing. Please also ignore all of the clutter that is sitting around me in that garage space. Like I said, I moved in about 3 weeks ago, and I am still in the middle of trying to put everything away, trying to find a home for everything so that I can put it all away. In future videos, I would like to show everyone the studio spaces that I will be building out, as this house came with lots of garage and workshop space. Right now, there's not much to show other than boxes and stuff everywhere. My plan is to get my own studio set up and running over the next few months, and then start to build out the rest of the spaces so that I can invite other artists to come here and work. I kind of see this like a cross between a community center and a residency space. I would love to be able to invite artists to come, live here, and work for 3 months, 6 months, a year, creating work either independently or collaboratively, depending on how the spaces evolve. Okay, back to the hedgerow. So I have 4 varieties of lilac planted. I have one that is simply labeled traditional lilac. This is where all of the hybrids started from. I have President Greavy, whose florets are blue with hints of mauve and pink. Lavender Lady, which make light pink to lavender single giant flower heads. And the Beauty of Kiev. This one makes very showy pink with white interior, double, even triple blossoms, and is apparently very fragrant. At this point, I have planted about halfway down this long property line, so I will need to pick up at least the same amount of lilacs in the spring as I did this fall. I'm excited to go back to the lilac farm and discover even more varieties to show off the beauty of this shrub. By the way, I call this my power stance, and I laugh at how often I find myself standing that way. And finally, I ordered a soil test kit from a company called My Soil. The directions ask you to take multiple collections around 6 inches below the surface from the area you want to learn about. These are mixed together, and a measured amount is placed into the collection jar. Then it gets mailed back to the company. It takes about a week for them to post the results of what is in your soil. That info will let me know how I need to amend the ground further to ensure the best growth of these plants. Well, that's it for this video. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up and hit subscribe so you'll know when I post my next video. And please leave me comments down below. I would love to have feedback for how to make this channel even more interesting to all of you. Okay, bye for now.